And I was praying, and I hate to say this, but my prayers just weren't working. My prayers weren't working, and I would just pray every night and then fall asleep and get maybe an hour or two of sleep. And then when I wake up in the morning, I didn't even want to wake up. I was sad that I woke up. And wrong with my child, but the doctors was telling me that there wasn't. So we took our baby home, and it literally was just nonstop for 4 months.
Hey, it's hard to police myself, focus and teach myself, love, hug and squeeze myself, hold tight and release myself. I just wanna please myself, expand and increase myself, see myself, free myself. But the truth is, I need some help. So much pressure as an adolescent, always telling me that I.
Let's talk about it, y'all. Oh, you crazy. Okay, so today I want to talk about my depression story. If you are close to me, or even if you're not close to me, if we're maybe friends on social media, then you know that, or you might know that I struggle with depression and anxiety, and it's been something that I've suffered from for pretty much my entire life. I want to start out the video by saying that this is my experience. This is my story. If you struggle with depression, anxiety, suicidal thoughts, please reach out to someone. Please talk to someone. Please get help. Again, this is my experience. Don't take my experience for your experience, because we're all different. And I just wanted to share my experience. Okay, so for depression and anxiety, I believe that mine comes from childhood trauma. I grew up in a very abusive environment, and as a child there was abuse in my household, and I was abused as a child, and my abuse as a child, there were several forms of the abuse, and that's something that I kind of tucked at the back of my head, and I just kind of moved on from it and just really wanted to live a stable life. That's really all I've ever wanted, was just a stable life, a stable home, just stability in my life. And I used my experiences growing up to kind of make a map of what I don't want as an adult, and as what I don't want for my children. But going through those traumas, going through those abuses, it changes a person. And I feel like in the Black community, it's not something that we always talk about. But for me, I know my depression and my anxiety came from childhood trauma and came from the abuse that I've had and the abuse I've seen as a child. And it is what it is. I don't hate anybody. I don't hold any resentment towards anyone, but I think it's really important just to be honest about things that happen. So, growing up in that situation and getting older, my life kind of stabilized when I got into junior high and high school. We had a steady place to live. We had everything just kind of got better when I got into junior high, and especially high school. And I don't know if I suffered from depression or anxiety during those years. I just remember those years being very happy because everything was stable. I had good relationships with my family. I had good relationships with friends. I was involved in a lot of extracurricular activities, and I don't think I struggled in high school. I think I was just very happy. Went on to college, and college was literally the best time of my life. As a young person, I was involved in band. I had met great friends. I loved college. The first signs for me of depression came when I was in my senior year of university, and I was very sad and I didn't know why. I remember being in my on-campus apartment and wondering, why am I sad? Like, I'm graduating. Like, I pretty much felt like, wow, fly. I pretty much felt like I had the world at my fingertips. I could go anywhere, I could do anything, I could be anything I wanted. I loved my major, which was business. I had met my husband, but he was my boyfriend at the time, and we had been together for a long time, and we just, everything was going good. I had friends, I had a long-term boyfriend, and I just could not figure out why I was sad. I had absolutely no reason to be sad, but I was very sad. And so that was the first time that I remember about having depression. And I didn't know what it was. I really didn't. I was like, Renita, you have everything going for yourself. What's wrong with you? Why are you choosing to be sad? Why are you choosing to be, negative? And there's nothing wrong with you. And it was very confusing to me because I don't even know if I'm sure I've heard about depression, anxiety at that time, but I don't know really, it was one of those crazy people diseases or something like that. So that was my first time that I can remember, now that I know what depression is, now that I know what anxiety is. That's the first time I can recognize the depression in myself. So ultimately, kind of fast forward from the first time that I felt depressed, I actually had, I think I just kind of snapped out of that one. I probably chalked it up to, it's just a major transition going on in life. I went ahead and graduated from college, got my first job, got my first apartment, was still very much in love with my boyfriend, who is now my husband. And I loved my job. I just loved life. In my opinion, I don't know if I had depression, anxiety at that time, because I was just everything was going right and I didn't have anything, and I don't think I was suffering at that time from depression and anxiety. So several years went by and I don't think I had anything major going on. So there was a very specific instance for me that triggered a major depressive episode. What happened was me and my husband, we got married. We waited 5 years before we tried to conceive, and we had our first child, and everything was perfect. Everything was perfect with our first child. We waited 3 more years, and we had our second child. Well, our second child, the pregnancy was good, everything was fine, but when she was born, I could tell immediately that something was wrong. I could tell immediately when she was born. I could tell that there was something wrong, but the doctors were adamant. The doctors and the nurses were adamant that everything's fine. She's fine, but as a mother, I knew. And so, okay, I'm gonna try to get through this without being a big baby. I knew that there was something wrong with my child, but the doctors was telling me that there wasn't. So, we took our baby home, and it literally was just nonstop for 4 months. She didn't sleep. She was miserable. She was crying all the time. And I literally was just losing it. And I think for me, I was just pretending that everything was fine and pretending that I was Superwoman. Like, I can go back to work and I can have my babies and have everything, but I wasn't sleeping. And when the doctors did prescribe medicine for the baby, she started sleeping, and everything with her health got better, like literally, pretty rapidly. But the 4 months of damage had already been taken on me physically and mentally. And I remember one day being at work, and I literally was like, like something just wasn't right. Like, it wasn't. And so I had been struggling with depression and more so anxiety. Like, I was sad, but I was more like anxiety, like, is my baby really okay? Am I doing a good job? Am I being a good wife? Am I being a good mother? I was just having these anxietal thoughts like over and over, and I wasn't communicating to anybody anything that was going on with me, because I felt, again, why are you complaining? Like, this is motherhood. Children get sick, people get tired. And so I think the hardest part about this initial breakdown, this major depressive thing that was happening to me at this time, was hiding it. It was hiding it. That is what hurt me the most, because when you're not feeling well and you choose not to let people be there for you, you're going through that pain alone, and then it's just very isolating. It's very isolating. And so the thing I would tell someone is, don't wait until it gets too bad. Don't wait till you're really at your desk like I was, and it was like, dun, dun, dun. So back to that, literally was at my desk at work, and I just felt something just break in, like a little something snapped in my brain. And I instant messaged my boss at the time, and I was like, hey, I'm gonna leave. And I just thank God, because no questions asked. He literally was like, yeah, go take care of yourself. And so I called my husband, and I was like, just let it all out. I was like, I think I have postpartum. And just from that moment, I just felt so much better, because I finally let my guard down. I finally told someone what was going on with me. And he immediately was like, what do we need to do? And I appreciate him, and I love him so much for that. Some of my symptoms, I'll go into that. The symptoms for me, like I said, was I was not sleeping. I had thoughts, negative thoughts that just kept playing and kept playing and kept playing. And there was just a feeling of not being good enough. There was a feeling of, it's never gonna end. Like, I just thought, like, my life, this is it. This is my life, just being miserable, not being a good mother, not being a good wife, not being a good employee. And it just, the thoughts are very real, but the situation is not. And so that's why, to me, depression and anxiety are so deadly, because in your mind, this is real, this is really happening. But in the real world, it's not. You're like, you're a great mom, you're a great wife, you're a great employee, but in your mind is literally playing tricks on you. And what was so bad for me is I was hiding it, and I was praying, and I hate to say this, but my prayers just weren't working. My prayers weren't working, and I would just pray every night and then fall asleep and get maybe an hour or two of sleep, and then when I wake up in the morning, I didn't even want to wake up. I was sad that I woke up. And that's horrible. It's horrible to feel like that. I didn't want to be here. And it's like, I have beautiful kids, I have my family, and I didn't want to be here because I just was so in this state of depression, anxiety. So Quentin immediately called the doctor, and we got a doctor's appointment, and they showed so much care for me, because as soon as they knew that I was going through postpartum, they immediately asked, do you need to come in right now? Do you need to come in today? Can this wait until tomorrow or a few days? And when I did go to the appointment, they showed so much care and compassion. And I couldn't even talk through the appointment. I was like, ooh, just crying the whole time. And Quentin was there with me, thank God. And we got through it together. Ultimately, the doctor said for this type of depression with the baby, that what I really should do is I should have someone take the baby, like a family member, like Quentin or his mom, and really focus on getting rest. She was like, you need your rest. And at that time it was good because Rain, my daughter, she was doing so much better physically. She wasn't sick anymore very much. So she's like, the first thing you do, you need to get some rest. And she was like, the second thing I want to do is I want to prescribe a medication. The medication that she prescribed is Zoloft. And a lot of people are against medications. And if you don't want to seek medication for yourself, that's perfectly fine. What I would ask is that you don't discourage other people that might want to seek this treatment. For me, it has absolutely been life-saving. The reason I can say that me being on medication has been life-saving is because nothing was working. And ever since I've gotten on my medication, my moods have stabilized a lot. I'm also a very intense person. I'm a very intense person, and my emotions can go like this just on a regular. And since I've been on the medication, I still have that, but it's more even, if you know what I mean. So I started taking my medication. Within 2 weeks, I felt better. Within a few months, I felt like myself. The prescription was for a year, and I felt better. But unfortunately, my mother ended up passing, and during that time that she was passing, I was like, oh, I'll just get off my antidepressant because a year had gone and I felt better. This is key. I felt better. And I was like, oh, I don't need the medicine anymore. And so I stopped taking the medicine, just cold turkey. And it actually caused in me to going through the trauma of my mother passing away and not being on the medication and not having a supervised doctor wean me off the medication or however you're supposed to do it. It actually created a really bad situation for me. So what I can say is if you do start a medication, make sure you're keeping in touch with your doctor and make sure that you're doing things the right way. I still to this day take the medication just for my mother's passing. It's been almost 2 years and I'm just not there yet. And for me, why I choose to take medication is because I want to be healthy for my children, and I want to be healthy for myself first and foremost. I choose to take medication because I want to be healthy mentally, and it helps me, and I want to be there for my children. I look at my parents, and I look at different people in my family, different people I've been close with, and I see that they struggle from some type of mental illness, and there's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing wrong with depression and anxiety or anything. There's nothing wrong with it. There's such a stigma to mental illness, but I have to break the generational curse, and I have to do better for my children, and I have to do better for myself. And so in saying that, right now I'm on the medication, and I don't know how long I will be on the medication. I know that I have a lot of work to do to deal with past trauma, and I have issues that I need to unfortunately confront. But in doing that, I don't want to pass these issues on to my children. And so it's my top priority to be mentally healthy for my children, and it's my top priority to be healthy for myself. And for me, that was reaching out, talking about the depression, talking about the anxiety, not being ashamed, and seeking help. Everybody's version of help is going to be different. If you see that your help is not working, you need to revisit that and find something that is going to work for you. I pray that this message blessed someone that might be going through this issue, and I pray that you get help because, like I said, the thoughts are real, but the situation is not. And anything that you're going through, you can get through. Just talk to somebody. Just telling someone, it can really change. And if you need something, you can definitely reach out to me. I consider myself an advocate for mental health, and I would love to use my experience to help other people. Thanks.